National differences of political economy. Political economy is an interdisciplinary branch of the social science that focuses on the interrelationships among individuals, government, and public policies. So, national differences in political policies, political economy refer to the diverse ways that countries organize their political and economic systems, impacting how power is distributed, resources are allocated, and economic activity is regulated. These differences stem from the unique historical, cultural, and social context, leading to various political and economic structure globally. Next is individualisms, a philosophy that an individual should have freedom on his or her economic and political pursuits. Individualism stresses that interests of the individual should take precedence over the interests of the states. So, individualisms, it can be traced to Greek philosopher Aristotle. Individual diversity and private ownerships are desirable. So, individual economics and political freedoms are the ground rules on which of society should be based or implies democratic political systems and free market economics. So, socialisms, this type of political economy promotes the idea that the productions and distributions of goods and wealth are maintained and regulated by a society rather than a particular group of people. So, in the early 20th century, socialism split into communisms and social democratics. Communism, socialisms can only be achieved through violent revolutions and totalitarian dictatorships. Democrats, socialism is achieved through democratic means, retreating as many countries move forward free market economics, state-owned enterprise that have privatized.
Proceed to individualism. Individualism refers to a philosophy that an individual should have freedom in his or her economic and political pursuits. Individualism is built on two central tenets. The first is an emphasis on the importance of guaranteeing individual freedom and self-expression. The second tenet of individualism is that the welfare of society is best served by letting people pursue their own economic self-interest as opposed to someone collective body such as government dictating what is in society's best interest. So simply, individualism is people have the freedom to make their own decisions. May kalayaan silang gawin kung ano yung gusto nilang gawin sa buhay or sa business na maaaring makakatulong rin naman sa pag-improve ng economy or ng society. Hindi lang sa kani-kanilang sarili, kundi makakontribute din sa economy. Next is democracy and totalitarianism. Democracy refers to a political system in which government is by the people, exercised either directly or through elected representatives. So, ang democracy or demokratika is ito na yung kalayaan ng isang tao na pumili kung sino man yung gusto nilang i-elect, especially sa election, kung sino ba yung gusto nilang mamuno sa bawat lugar. So, yun, yung kalayaan ng bawat isa na piliin kung sino yung gusto nilang mamuno. Yun ang democracy. And totalitarianism is a form of government in which one person or political party exercises absolute control over all spheres of human life and prohibits opposing political parties. So sa totalitarianism naman is ito na yung group or government na kumukontrol sa bawat individuals ng isang country. Kumbaga sila na yung mahigpit na namumuno sa pinamumunuan nila. So people can't speak freely or vote freely. So marami silang pinagbabawal and hindi malaya yung people na nahahawakan nila. So yun ang totalitarianism, is hindi free yung individuals sa isang country. Yun ang totalitarian. Next is democracy rin, the pure a form of democracy as originally practiced by several city-states in ancient Greece, is based on a belief that citizens should be directly involved in decision making. So nabuo yung democracy first sa ancient Greece, kung saan pinaniniwalaan nila na yung mga bawat individuals or citizens is dapat kasali sila sa pagbuo ng desisyon na makakabuti rin naman sa economy. So doon nabuo yung democracy na tinatawag na kung saan yung bawat mamamayan is may kalayaan na sa pagpili kung sino man yung gusto nilang i-elect sa posisyon, especially sa politika. So, most modern democratic states practice representative democracy. In a representative democracy, citizens periodically elect individuals to represent them. So, meaning, ang representative democracy is ito na yung pagpili ng bawat individuals sa gusto nilang i-elect sa posisyon, at yung napili naman nila is yun yung magre-represent sa lugar na yon. Kumbaga sila yung maglalaban-laban katulad sa election. Bawat isa ay pipili kung sino yung i-elect nila, at yung mga napili na yun is sila yung maglalaban-laban para sa posisyon. So, gano'n yung representative democracy. So, next is totalitarianism. In a totalitarianism country or totalitarian country, all the constitutional guarantees on which representative democracies are built, an individual's right to freedom of expression and organization, a free media, and regular elections are denied to the citizens. So, yun nga, dito sa totalitarianism is mahigpit yung country or yung mga namumuno sa country na yun is mahigpit. Walang kalayaan yung mga mamamayan nila or yung mga citizens, is limited lamang yung kanilang mga galaw. Limited lang yung kung gusto nilang mag-business is kailangan pa nilang magpaalam or mag-consult muna or ipa-consult muna sa mga government agencies, or kumbaga notarize, or para mas magkaroon ng katibayan pa na para mai-allow sila mag-business kumbaga is hindi sila basta-basta nakakapag-business sa kanilang gusto. Yun nga, mahigpit yung country nila, is limited lamang yung mga access na-access nila, na hindi nila nakakamit yung mga gusto nilang gawin, or kung gusto nilang mag-business ng specific na business, is bawal pala yun sa country nila, is hindi nila magagawa yung gusto nilang business. So, ganun ito sa totalitarianism, is mahigpit yung country or yung government na country, is walang freedom, wala masyadong freedom yung mga individuals and citizens sa country na yun. So, sa summary is individualism and democracy is more freedom and more businesses and better chances na maka-join sa global economy and globalizations para makapag-improve pa ng mabuti yung economy or country na mga individualism and democracy na country. Sa kabila naman, yung totalitarianism is less freedom and strict yung government control na ginagawa nila, and especially limited yung participation in globalization. Is ibig sabihin nito is dito sa totalitarianism is yung country na yun is very strict, like in North Korea. Strict sila, hindi sila nakikisawsaw sa ibang countries, and yung countries naman yun ay hindi rin nakaka-access sa mga resources or trades. Walang trades na nagaganap sa North Korea. May trading man is doon rin sa kanila sa North Korea rin, pero yung trading na globalization is walang nagaganap doon sa North Korea. So yun yung example ng totalitarianism, is less freedom and strict masyado yung government. Yun. So,
discussing right-wing totalitarianism. So we're just going to have an overview about this one. So this is a political system that permits limited economic freedom but restricts political freedom. So it's right in between economic freedom and political freedom. Second, this is commonly rooted in nationalist, military, or religious ideologies. So the key features that we have here are having a strong central authority and little tolerance for opposition. Now, when we talk about totalitarianism, which was discussed in the previous slides, obviously there is no specific type of freedom in general when it pertains or it compares to economic freedom. Now, this has control over media, political expression, and sometimes about religion. So we're gonna discuss a few countries later that discusses the political expression and sometimes religion. Next, business may operate under state supervision or favoritism. So that's we're gonna do next slide. Now, talking about legal system and business impact. Dito, pag-uusapan natin ang legal characteristics. So first, laws are often unclear or selectively applied. Ayan. Courts may lack independence favoring state or local elites. So pag-uusapan natin ng medyo detailed later with countries, no? Second, implications for international business. So we have unstable regulations can affect contracts and operations, no, from the sentence itself. Legal bias may hurt foreign companies in disputes. So syempre kapag may nag-aaway na foreign companies, kapag there are a legal bias, or like for example, mas nagbabias yung isang legal sistema sa isang country, mahihirapan sila and mag-aaway sila in a way where it's not fair for the both of them. Next, we have corruption and favoritism can limit fair competition. So, ayun na nga. Kapag meron naman talagang favoritism, hindi mo yun talaga maiwasan. So, we're gonna discuss later about how that affects the business. Next slide. Business risks and country examples. Now, major business risks, which is suddenly law changes or arbitrary enforcement, syempre, understandable kapag may sudden law changes or arbitrary enforcement, mahirapan talaga ang isang business na makapag-adjust. For example, pag biglang naging Muslim area yung location na ginabentahan mo, tapos biglang sinabi nila na bawal magbenta ng alcohol dyan or anything that has pork, that would have been very hard for your business if your business consists of selling alcohol and selling pork. Ayan. Weak protection for property and contract rights, limited or no protection for intellectual property. So, this two right here, example ito sa mga war zones. So, kapag wala kang protection for the intellectual property, pati din yung sa contract rights, syempre, mahihirapan talaga. So, we're gonna discuss about the country examples as of 2024. Okay. First, we have the Russia, increasing state control under authoritarian rule. Isipin mo pa lang right now, as of 2025, there is a war zone there. Hindi lang talaga doon sa increasing state control. Pero mahihirapan ka talaga na magkaroon ng business dyan, and there's going to be a lot of business risks. Second, Saudi Arabia. So, we have a religious monarchy with controlled economy. So, when we talk about that, there are some places there. I think it's the whole country where kapag magtawag na ng prayer, call to prayer, hindi na pwede
So now, let's proceed to different legal laws. There are three main types of legal systems or legal tradition in use around the world. The common law, civil legal system, and theocratic legal system. Common law is based on tradition, precedent, and custom. So when we say common law, it is a legal system na kung saan ang mga batas ay nabubuo mula sa desisyon ng judges and court cases rather than legislature. It is based on three main ideas. First is the tradition that talks about the history. Kumbaga, sinasabi dito na kailangan muna nila malaman kung ano ang pinagmulan bago sila mag-decide. The second one is the precedent, na kung saan ang desisyon naman ay nagbe-base sa mga previous cases. This is the important part of common law. It is often called as stare decisis, meaning to stand by things settled. Tinutukoy dito na kailangan sundin ng korte ang previous decision. Ito ang dahilan kung bakit tinitignan ng mga judges ang dating kaso kapag sila ay nag-decide. And the last one is custom. Ang decision making naman dito is kung paano ina-apply ang law in a certain situations. Isipin natin, mayroong judge na mag-decide sa isang kaso where new situations comes up at wala pang specific na law para dito. Siyempre, the judges would look at the past cases that are similar at gagamitin nila ng mga previous decision doon to help them make a ruling. Next is the civil law system. It is based on detailed set of laws organized into codes. Ang civil legal system naman ay instead of relying on the past, ginagamit dito is yung mga detailed legal code sa pag-decide. Nagfo-focus ito sa correct legal provision in the code, yung mga law na nakalagay sa books of law, not on the past court cases na kagaya sa common law. The last one is the theocratic law system. Is one in which the law is based on religious teachings. Ito naman ay gumagamit ng law based on religious teachings. And the most widely practiced theocratic legal system is the Islamic law or what we call the Sharia law. nagbe-base ang ruling or desisyon sa mga religious text kagaya na lang ng nasa Quran. So, let's proceed to differences in contract law. Contract is a document that specifies the condition under which an exchange is to occur and details the right and obligation of the parties involved. So, ang contract it talks about a formal agreement that states terms and condition para sa business deal na naglalaman ng kung ano ang dapat gawin ng each party at kung ano ang mga karapatan nila na matatanggap. Yun ang sinasabi nating contract. Next naman is the contract law. It's the body of law that governs contract enforcement. Ang contract law naman ay ginagamit ito para ma-ensure that promises made in business and personal dealings are legal. Nagbibigay ito ng katiyakan at ways upang makahingi ng tulong kapag may hindi inaasahang problema. At kapag naman sa international, when contract disputes arise in international trade, there is always the question of which country's law to apply. So ano nga ba ang ma-apply natin na law kapag may nangyaring problema sa international na? Ang ma-apply natin na law is the United Nations Convention on Contracts for the International Sale of Goods or the CISG. Makikita dyan sa PPT is CIGS. Pero ang kuan dyan is CISG. The CISG established a uniform set of rules governing certain aspect of the making and performance of everyday commercial contracts between sellers and buyers who have their places of business in different nations. So, itong law is nakakatulong ito upang mag-set ng rules in different countries. That's
Property rights and corruption. Property is anything a person or business legally owns, like land, building, equipment, and even ideas. Property rights are the legal rights to use and earn from these resources. Most countries have laws to protect property, but not all enforce them well. Property rights can be violated by private individuals or government officials. In law, property means any resource na pamagmay-ari ng tao or business. Meron silang legal title. If meron silang legal title, ibig sabihin sila ang may karapatan dito. Ang mga resources na ito ay pwedeng lupa, bahay, buildings, equipment, capital, businesses, pati na rin ideas like invention which are protected by patents, copyrights, and trademarks. Property rights naman means yung legal rights kung paano gagamitin ang resource at kung sino ang may karapatan sa income na makukuha mula dito. For the next is private action. So private action refers to crimes that theft, privacy, and blackmail done by individuals or groups. This happen more often in countries with weak legal system. For example, in 1990s Russia, the mafia threatened businesses and demanded protection money. Over 500 businessmen were killed in just 2 years. Similar groups exist in other countries like the Yakuza in Japan and the Mafia in the US. But the impact was worse in Russia because of its weak police and court system. Private action means illegal acts like nakaw, blackmail at iba pang ginagawa ng private individuals or groups not by the government. Sa lahat ng bansa may theft, pero mas grabe ito sa mga lugar na mahina ang legal system. Example na ang Russia. Dahil luma ang batas at mahina ang pulis at korte, wala masyadong protection ang mga businesses lalo na ang foreign investors. Doon naging malakas ang Russian mafia. Maraming business owners ang napilitang magbayad ng protection money para hindi sila saktan. Kapag hindi sila lang bayad, pwede silang pagbantaan, pasabugin ng business or worse, patayin sila. In fact, In fact, halos 500 businessmen ang na-assassinate noong 1995 of 1996. So, private action is a serious threat kung hindi maayos ang enforcement ng law sa isang bansa. So, next is public action. Public action is when government officials abuse their power to take money, property, or resources from owners. This can be done legally through high taxes or expensive permits, and also through illegally by asking for the bribes to allow businesses to operate. Corruption happens in many places like Congo, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, and even Philippines under Ferdinand Marcos. No country is fully safe from corruption, but some have strong laws that punish it, while others have weak systems that allow it to continue. So public action happens kapag ang mismo mga government officials like politicians or government workers ang na-violate ng property rights. Ibig sabihin sila mismo ang naniningil, nangungupit at kumukuha ng pera, property or income mula sa may-ari. Minsan ginagawa nila ito ng legal way like sobrang taas na tax, mahal na business permits and licenses. Kinukuha ng gobyerno ang asset na tao na walang bayad, i-redistribute ang property pero hindi binabayaran ng original owner. Pero madalas din itong ginagawa sa illegal way or corruption like humihingi ng bribe or lagay sa mga businesses kapalit ng karapatan to operate sa isang lugar, industry or bansa. Ang corruption ay nangyayari sa maraming bansa. May mga records na ito sa Congo, Netherlands, Japan, Brazil, Indonesia, and New York. Even sa Philippines, noong panahon ni Ferdinand Marcos, kilala ang gobyerno sa paniningil ng bribe sa foreign investors. Pareho rin ito sa Indonesia under President Suharto. Walang bansa na totally immune sa corruption, pero may differences. Sa ibang bansa, malakas ang rule of law, kaya may corruption at tinuhuli at pinaparusahan talaga. Sa iba naman, mahinang batas kaya laganap ang corruption lalo na sa mga opisyal. Kaya napakahalaga ng malinaw at maayos na legal system para maprotektahan ng property rights ng tao at businesses. So next is the protection of intellectual property. So intellectual property is something created through human ideas or creativity like computer ideas. So merong two types of protection. First is patent. So patent gives investors the exclusive right to make, use, or sell their invention for a set time. Second is the copyright. So copyright gives authors, musicians, artists, and publishers the legal right to publish and copy their work as they choose. So in the 1970s, the US created the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So this is created to stop American companies from bribing foreign officials to get business deals. The law bans bribes to foreign government officials. So this requires company to keep detailed records to prevent illegal payments. In 1997, the OECD also created a global anti-bribery agreement, making it a crime to bribe foreign officials. However, the FCPA and OECD allow small grace payments used to speed up regular government services like permits or paperwork. These are still bribes, but are seen as less serious because they don't influence big businesses and big business decisions, just to help things move faster. In 1970s, the United States created a law called Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Ginawa ito after malaman na maraming US companies ang nagbigay ng bribe sa foreign officials para lang manalo sa big contract abroad. So under this law, bawal mag-bribe ng foreign government officials para lang makuha o ma-maintain ang businesses. Second is lahat ng publicly traded companies kahit hindi involved sa international trade, kailangan mag-keep ng detailed records para ma-detect agad kung may nilabag na rule. Then, in 1997, yung Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, a group of 30 powerful economists also agreed a convention against bribery. Under this agreement, member countries must criminalize bribery as internal business deals. Pero may exemption na tinatawag. First is facilitating payments. Second is grease money. Third is speed money. Ibig sabihin nito, small payments na pinapabilis lang ng regular government service. For example, para mas mabilis ang paglabas ng permit or para ma-process agad ang documents or ma-deliver agad ang goods tulad ng gulay from port to market. Technically, bribe pa rin ito, pero mas maliit at pangpabilis lang ng trabaho na dapat naman talaga gawin ng mga government workers. Kaya kahit bawal ang bribery, pinapayagan minsan ng grease payments dahil hindi ito directly para makuha ang buong business contract.
National differences in copyright laws. Copyright laws are primarily national, meaning each country has its own domestic laws that apply to its citizens and the use of foreign content within its borders. There is no single international copyright law that automatically protects works globally. However, international treaties such as Berne Convention for the Protection of Literary and Artistic Works establish minimum standards for copyright protection among member countries. National differences exist in product safety regulations and product liability law, which are influenced by countries' political economy. These variations affect how products are regulated, the standards they must meet, and how manufacturers and other parties are held accountable for defective goods. National differences in product safety regulations. Product safety regulations and standards vary significantly across nations and regions. Though international standards aim to harmonize requirements and facilitate trade, product safety laws set specific safety standards that a product must adhere to. In the European Union, product safety has been a concern since the early 1960s, and the regulatory framework is complex, involving numerous legislations. Cultural and social customs can influence product safety regulation, as seen in Japan, where product safety regulation reflects the country's history, culture, religion, and institutional constraints on litigations. For example, Japanese product safety regulation, including standards and product liability law, is deeply rooted in Japanese culture and psyche, making it challenging to adapt these standards to meet the demands of Western trading partners. National differences in product liability laws. Product liability laws differ considerably across nations, reflecting varying legal traditions, social welfare system, and approaches to justice. Product liability involves holding a firm and its officers responsible when a product causes injury or death. The United States stands out among industrialized nations for addressing tort law at the state rather than the national level, unlike Australia and Canada, which have federal tort system despite sharing a common law heritage.